everybody, this is the Vikström's Oliver Stone. This is technically his debut film, at least, for a major studio with major recognizable stars. I consider this, myself at least, the debut film of Oliver Stone, and oh boy has he done better movies since then. But there is another thing that this movie is very, very hampered by, and that is the fact that I've said on many occasions that I am dumb as a stump when it comes to movies. I can never see a swerve coming, I can never see a twist coming, I never figure out who is the killer, I never figure out what's going to happen. When it was, an hour left, a good hour left before this movie was over, I knew exactly how this movie was going to pan out. And realizing that left me in a lose-lose situation, because either I was going to be right about it, and in that case, this was going to be very predictable and it was going to be a chore to get through, or I was completely wrong about it, and it was going to be incredibly hokey and the entire thing was going to suck major big time. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I was correct or not, but to be fair, I don't think it would have, infected the rating that this movie was going to get, regardless if I was correct or if I was incorrect. But let's find out what movie that built, Michael Caine's garage back in the early 1980s. This is The Hand, or as the Swedish title goes, The Hand That Kills. Handen som dödar. A much better title. Plays John, a reasonably successful cartoonist who, has his passion project and his comic books and, his daughter, and he has a wife that he loves and a job that he loves, and, life seemed pretty good for John, but John is struck by a case of bad luck and movie accident, and a car crash severes his entire hand. By the way, the hand is never found, that will be important later. And as a cartoonist, his right hand is the most important tool in his arsenal. And, despite him, trying prosthetics and stuff like that, he cannot quite, do his job with his left hand or with his right hand, prosthetics or not. So he's released from his contract and he switches career and becomes a college professor instead. And then the nightmare starts happening, because he has reoccurring nightmares that the hand is still out there somewhere close to the accident site, that the hand is alive and that it runs around in the same vein as the Thing from the Addams Family, and that it kills at will and that it has a will of its own and stuff like that. And people who he doesn't like, or foes of him or enemies of him, has a tendency of dying in mysterious ways. Is the hand responsible for this, or is there something else going on here that we don't know? Ooh, intrigue. So Michael Caine is a fantastic actor, and even when he does these sort of paycheck roles, he's still by far the greatest thing in the entire movie. And this is not an exception. Michael Caine is very good in this one, but he's also the only memorable character from this entire movie. It was a bit of a sluggish thing to get through, because, as I said, you know exactly where this one is going. And the movie was quite a sluggish affair to get through. There was really no suspense here. There was no, creative gore or something like that. This movie could have been turned into a, great psychological, thriller or something like that, or even a good slasher, despite, I hate slashers. So there is another lose-lose situation. So I will say, however, that the movie has interesting bits to it, and Michael Caine is very good, so it's not a complete waste of time, but it was a boring, uneventful movie. It's kind of weird that Stephen King has not written the book that this movie is based on. I haven't read the book, so I don't know. Maybe the, book explores more the psychological side of things, but in this case, we're just gonna have to settle for a kind of B movie about, a guy who loses his hand and has recurring nightmares that leads up to, the pretty predictable ending, which I may or may not have, called an hour before it actually happened. So, should you see this movie? The answer is a resounding no. This was a boring and uneventful movie. Michael Caine is good, but that's the only thing that is really good. There are some aspects that they could have explored, but they weren't explored, and in the end, this is kind of a shoulder shruggish movie. While not being a terrible movie, I cannot give this movie anything over 26 points. It's a classic forgotten B movie with a big star that should have been better you know, considering who is behind the camera and who's in front of the camera, but it just doesn't work that much. This really doesn't feel like an Oliver Stone movie. So I'll see you next time from, well, so-and-so reviewing, well, such and such. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much.